You have seen these guns 100 times. In posters on your wall, in video games you grew up playing, in movies you have watched over and over. These are the 10 most iconic firearms ever put on screen. This video examines firearms strictly as historical movie props and within a film analysis context. It is not about real-world use, tactics, or instruction. Number 10 is the Sterling L2A3, better known as the E11 blaster from Star Wars. When production designer John Barry needed weapons for Imperial stormtroopers in 1977, the budget was tight. The solution came from British prop house Bapty & Company, who supplied deactivated Sterling submachine guns. These 9mm firearms had been used by the British military since the 1950s, and plenty of surplus units were available in London where filming took place. The prop department added tank scopes from Sherman vehicles, plastic power cells on the side, and various greeblies to create that futuristic look. The original Sterlings had 34-round side-mounted magazines and folding stocks, but most of this got covered up or removed for the films. That distinctive blaster sound you hear in A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and every Star Wars movie since was created by sound designer Ben Burt, who struck a guy wire on a radio tower and processed the recording. The same deactivated Sterlings from Star Wars actually got stripped down even further and repurposed for the film Alien just 2 years later. Today you can find airsoft versions everywhere, and if you have ever been to a convention, you have probably seen cosplayers with screen-accurate E11s. The Sterling itself went out of military service in the 1990s, but its legacy lives on in a galaxy far, far away. Number 9 brings us to the MAC-10 and its smaller sibling, the MAC-11. Gordon Ingram designed these compact submachine guns in 1970, and they became instant symbols of urban firepower in Hollywood. The MAC-10 fires 9mm rounds, while the MAC-11 uses .380 caliber ammunition. Both are open-bolt blowback weapons with threaded barrels made specifically for suppressors. They weigh under 4 pounds and can fire over 1,000 rounds per minute, which made them favorites for depicting chaos on screen. Kurt Russell carried one through the dystopian streets of Escape from New York in 1981, establishing the weapon as a go-to choice for anti-hero characters. Wesley Snipes used one throughout the Blade franchise starting in 1998, and the guns appeared again in Spawn that same year. The suppressed version showed up in The Killer Elite back in 1975, which influenced how spy thrillers depicted compact automatic weapons for years after. Prop departments loved these because the extended magazines looked dramatic on camera, and the compact size meant actors could carry them easily during action sequences. You see them constantly in music videos and video games like Grand Theft Auto. Despite their controversial reputation, replicas remain popular with collectors who appreciate the industrial design that made these guns so recognizable on screen. At number 8, we have the Desert Eagle, the most over-the-top handgun in film history. Magnum Research developed this gas-operated semi-automatic pistol starting in 1979, and it entered production in the mid-1980s. The version you see most often in movies is chambered in .50 Action Express, which makes it genuinely impractical for most real-world applications. It weighs 4.5 pounds, holds 8 rounds, and has a 6-inch barrel with that unmistakable triangular profile. The recoil is enormous, which is exactly why Hollywood loves it. This thing has appeared in over 600 films and counting. The Boondock Saints in 1999 featured it prominently in the McManus Brothers arsenal. Bullet-Tooth Tony used one memorably in Snatch the following year. Agent Smith and the protagonists alike carried Desert Eagles in The Matrix. Even the villains in RoboCop back in 1987 used them. Behind the scenes, prop versions are often made from lighter aluminum so actors can handle them without fatigue during long shooting days. Sound designers typically layer multiple gunshot recordings to create that exaggerated boom the Desert Eagle is known for in movies. Real-world military and law enforcement rarely use them because of the weight and limited magazine capacity, but in films, the visual impact outweighs practicality every single time. Number 7 takes us to one of the most recognizable submachine guns ever made, the Heckler Koch MP5. German engineers developed this weapon in the 1960s using a roller-delayed blowback system borrowed from their G3 rifle design. It weighs about 6.5 pounds, fires 9mm ammunition at around 800 rounds per minute, and feeds from 30-round magazines. The modular design means you will see many variants on screen, from the MP5A3 with its retractable stock to the ultra-compact MP5K. This gun is everywhere in action movies. Terrorists use it against John McClane in Die Hard in 1988. The Predator hunting team carries them in the jungle in Predator from 1987. James Bond picks one up in License to Kill in 1989, often fitted with suppressors for covert operations. British prop house Bapty & Company, the same ones who provided the Sterling for Star Wars, supplied blanks-adapted MP5s to countless productions throughout the 1980s and 1990s. The weapon's real-world adoption by SWAT teams and counter-terrorism units worldwide actually followed its Hollywood popularity, a rare case of movies influencing tactical decisions. Rainbow Six and other tactical video games made it standard equipment for virtual operators, and it continues to appear in action films today. Coming in at number 6 is the M41A pulse rifle from Aliens. This one is completely fictional, but the prop itself is a beautiful piece of practical effects work. Director James Cameron designed it as a 10mm caseless assault rifle with a 99-round magazine and an underslung pump-action grenade launcher. The prop department built the hero units from a combination of real firearms. The main body is a Thompson M1A1 submachine gun, the same weapon American soldiers carried in World War II. The pump-action section underneath comes from a Remington 870 shotgun. The heat shield and foregrip incorporate parts from a Franchi Espace A12. LED ammo counters were added to give it that futuristic military tech look. Only a few functional blank firing versions were ever made for the production. Most of what you see on screen used rubber stunt versions for safety during the intense action sequences. The distinctive sound of the pulse rifle firing was created by layering slowed-down gunfire recordings, giving it that aggressive burping quality. Colonial Marines like Vasquez, Hicks, and Hudson carried these throughout the film, and they appeared again in Alien 3 in 1992. The design influenced science fiction weapon aesthetics for decades, and if you have played Halo, you have seen its DNA in those weapon designs. Airsoft manufacturers still produce detailed replicas because fans love that combination of World War II aesthetics and science fiction imagination. Number 5 on our list is the Beretta 92 FS, the Italian pistol that became standard issue for American action heroes. The United States military adopted it as the M9 service pistol in 1985, replacing the venerable 1911. It fires 9mm ammunition from a 15-round magazine, features an open slide design that reduces jamming, and has a double-action trigger system. The barrel measures 4.9 inches, and the whole thing weighs about 34 ounces. Italian craftsmanship includes a special brunetten finish that resists corrosion even in harsh conditions. Bruce Willis made this gun famous as John McClane in Die Hard in 1988, carrying it through Nakatomi Plaza against Hans Gruber and his crew. Mel Gibson used the same model as Martin Riggs throughout the Lethal Weapon franchise starting in 1987. The prop departments often shared the same blank firing units between different studio productions during this era, so the exact same gun might appear in multiple famous films. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker fire Berettas throughout Rush Hour in 1998. Neo and the other characters used them extensively in The Matrix in 1999. The 92 FS essentially became the default movie pistol for modern law enforcement characters during the late 1980s and through the 1990s. It helped shift American gun culture perception from revolvers toward semi-automatic pistols. At number 4, we find the Winchester Model 1887 lever-action shotgun. John Browning, one of the most important firearms designers in history, created this weapon in 1887 as the first truly successful repeating shotgun. It holds 5 rounds in a tubular magazine, plus 1 in the chamber, fires 12 or 10 gauge shells, and originally came with a 30-inch barrel. The standard model weighs about 8 pounds. Winchester manufactured these until 1920, and they were designed for black powder loads, though later versions handled smokeless ammunition. Arnold Schwarzenegger turned this antique design into a science fiction icon in Terminator 2: Judgment Day in 1991. During the Cyberdyne chase sequence, his T-800 character flip-cocks and fires the shotgun one-handed while riding a motorcycle. 4 hero props were customized for production with enlarged lever loops specifically to allow that spinning reload trick. The original gun's recoil would make this stunt almost impossible in real life, but movie magic made it look effortless. Director James Cameron chose this particular weapon because its Western heritage contrasted perfectly with the futuristic storyline. The 1887 also appeared in The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean in 1972 and Jumanji in 1995. Modern reproductions from companies like Chiappa and Cimarron exist specifically because of its Hollywood fame. If you have played Call of Duty, you have probably used one yourself. Number 3 belongs to the Colt single-action army, the Peacemaker, the gun that won the West on screen. William Mason and Charles Richards designed it, Colt patented it in 1872, and production began in 1873. The United States Army adopted it that same year, replacing older cap and ball revolvers. The cavalry model has a 7.5-inch barrel, holds 6 rounds of .45 Colt ammunition, and weighs 2.3 pounds. That color case, hardened frame, and blued barrel became the template for every Western movie revolver that followed. Real historical figures like Wyatt Earp and Billy the Kid carried these guns, and Hollywood made sure audiences never forgot. John Wayne wielded custom-engraved Peacemakers throughout his career, from Stagecoach in 1939 through True Grit in 1969. Clint Eastwood carried one in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly in 1966. The OK Corral shootout in Tombstone in 1993 featured them prominently. The Great Train Robbery in 1903, one of the earliest narrative films ever made, already showcased the single-action army. Colt actually stopped production in 1941, but resumed in 1956 specifically because television westerns like Gunsmoke created such enormous demand. The gun represents American frontier mythology more than any other firearm. Quentin Tarantino put it in The Hateful Eight in 2015, proving the legend continues. Our number 2 spot goes to the Walther PPK, the little German pistol that defined spy cinema. Karl Walther designed this compact semi-automatic in 1929 as a police detective weapon, hence the German name Polizeipistole Kriminal. It fires .380 ACP ammunition from a 7-round magazine. The barrel is only 3.3 inches long, and the whole gun weighs just 21 ounces, making it perfect for concealed carry. The double-action and single-action trigger system with an exposed hammer gave it reliability that police departments appreciated. German military and police used it throughout World War II. Ian Fleming gave it a complete image makeover, starting with his 1958 novel, Dr. No. A firearms expert named Jeffrey Boothroyd wrote to Fleming criticizing James Bond's original Beretta 25 as unsuitable for a secret agent. Fleming took the advice and switched Bond to the PPK. Sean Connery first carried it on screen in Dr. No in 1962, and every Bond actor since has used one in at least some capacity. Goldfinger in 1964, Thunderball in 1965, Skyfall in 2012, the PPK appears throughout the franchise. The P99 temporarily replaced it in Tomorrow Never Dies in 1997, but fan demand brought the classic back. Those smooth lines and compact dimensions became visual shorthand for sophisticated and in control. American sales spike after every Bond release, making it one of the best examples of cinema-driving consumer behavior in the firearms industry. Our number 1 most iconic movie gun is the Smith & Wesson Model 29, the .44 Magnum revolver that made Dirty Harry a legend. Elmer Keith, a famous gunwriter, pushed for a more powerful handgun cartridge throughout the 1950s. Working with Remington, he developed the .44 Magnum round to exceed the .357 Magnum in stopping power. Smith & Wesson built the Model 29 in 1955 specifically to handle this punishing ammunition. The end-frame design accommodates a 6-shot cylinder, and barrel lengths range from 4 inches to over 10 inches. The standard model weighs around 3 pounds unloaded. Before Dirty Harry, sales were modest. The gun was a niche item for hunters and a handful of law enforcement officers. Everything changed in 1971 when Clint Eastwood walked onto screen as San Francisco Police Inspector Harry Callahan. That speech about the most powerful handgun in the world, followed by the question about feeling lucky, became one of cinema's most quoted moments. Eastwood used 2 versions during filming, one with a 6.5-inch barrel and another with 8.375 inches. Smith & Wesson provided both directly to the production. The film's armorer modified special blanks to create realistic muzzle flash without endangering the cast. Eastwood practiced extensively to handle the significant recoil believably. After the movie's release, demand exploded. Waiting lists stretched for months. The sequels Magnum Force in 1973 and Sudden Impact in 1983 reinforced the gun's status. The Model 29 made revolvers relevant in an era when semi-automatic pistols were taking over everywhere else. It became a symbol of American individualism and righteous anger. Smith & Wesson still produces it today. These 10 guns remind us that cinema shapes how we think about weapons, history, and heroism. From frontier revolvers to futuristic pulse rifles, each one tells a story beyond the films they appeared in. They are industrial design, cultural artifacts, and props that became legends.